Folks, this is crazy. I had no idea it was going to go this far. This is going to be cut number 11. I can't believe I'm saying this. 100% depth of the cut, as always, 0.25 inches, and 0.225 width of cut. We're almost at a full width of cut as well. Same RPMs of 3,300 and change, 13.23 inches a minute travel. This is going to be a 0.74 MRR and a 1.48 horsepower. I mean, again, this shouldn't work. Like, this should be so close to the edge that we should see problems. Let's find out. Ouch. Woo! Ow. Ooh, those chips hurt. Holy cow. We are seeing the chips go in a lot of different directions because you're almost at 100% width of cut. But folks, are you kidding me? Look at this. Look at this. This thing is not done. What? Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. Well, I don't really know what to do next, folks. I'll be totally honest with you. I'm getting the exact chip that I want. Let's take a closer look at these. I want to get a macro lens, folks, but I don't have one. But what I can do is use my camera to zoom in, but I can't film with that zoom in for the focus. So here's some iPhone footage. Look at the chip. Look at the heat color in that chip and what you're dumping into it. Isn't that beautiful? So we can take a look. You've got those purples. You've got that straw color. What's important is that that heat is going into the chip. That means it's not going into the tool and it's not going into the workpiece. I didn't touch the tool. I don't want to cut myself, but I did touch the workpiece and it remained very cool. And like I said, those chips were hot. I felt them on my arm when I was trying to catch them in the cup, and they were actually melting through the cup. Folks, friggin' awesome. Just amazing. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. It wasn't actually the point of what I wanted to do. What I was hoping to do was reach a breaking point, a failing point. The machine stall out, the tool would snap, or you would just hear chip load, or you'd hear bog down. I honestly am shocked. It's proof that I've been babying this machine for way too long. It's fun to take the time to do this stuff, and you realize what the thing is actually capable of. There's a lot of science to this. What we're going to do here in a second is go look at those chips, and I'm going to look through that Excel spreadsheet on camera, but some folks might find that stuff boring, so I figured we'll put that stuff at the end. But here's the thing, folks. One of the things I love about my channel and my story is you don't have to be a trained machinist to make parts. And for some of you out there that are running Tormachs, you don't necessarily need to be the world's best machinists and chipload experts, and you don't need to be able to brag to your buddies or trade shows about SFM and all these fancy lingos. The answer is, can you make good parts? And if you need, part of making good parts is usually having a good cut recipe. And one of the things I always remember really wanting, especially when I was either younger at machining or newer to a material or approach or something, was, can someone please just give me a recipe to start with? I'm not asking for you to spoon feed all my work to me and everything in life. I'm not looking for free handouts, but tell me something. And so that's one of the things I really like to do. What this video is going to do is it's going to tell you, with the Tormach PCNC 1100, at this cut recipe with this exact end mill from LakeShore Carbide, you should get this type of results in 4140. And by the way, I think they're pretty darn impressive results. But I'll turn it over to you guys. What do you want to see more of this? I feel kind of bad because Carl from LakeShore Carbide actually sent me the same end mill we just used, but in a stubby version, so in theory it should have more rigidity. And then he sent me the same long and stub versions that have 5 flutes. And my plan for this video was actually to reach the failing point of that longer 4 flute pretty quickly, and then move on and see how much further we could push the other ones. But we're at the limit. So I'm just trying to think out loud, folks. What do you want to see? I mean, the logical steps would be increase the tool that we're working with to 5/16 or 3/8, or see what else. The point of a Tormach isn't ever to be a full-blown, high-volume, efficient production machine, in the sense that machines that cost $80 to $100 or more thousands of dollars can do that. But I'll tell you, there are a lot of people using Tormachs for production, and that doesn't mean you don't want to use your Tormach to get good material removal rates. The other thing is, of course, is tool life, and that matters for just about anybody. I'm sure if you're just putzing around making a cut or two, no big deal, but you know, I don't really own any end mills these days that are less than probably $20 an end mill, and you don't want to break those things, and you kind of want them to last. So from a financial standpoint, it doesn't hurt to have decent cut recipes, but also it's just fun, folks. I mean, when you're dumping the heat into that chip and you know, like, here's the thing I like. This sounds silly. If a journeyman tool and die maker walked into my shop and saw that last cut or saw the straw colored chips, I don't think he's gonna think, what's this hack doing? Like, it feels good. It kind of feels like you're in that club. So not to say that well, you guys get the point. So I'll stop rambling. Let's take a quick look at the chips, look at the Excel sheet, and then you guys in the comments below, let me know what you guys want to see next. I love this stuff. This is kind of fun to see. Next time, let's try to find an actual fail point, because that's the point. So again, footage to come here in a second on the chips in Excel, but I'm going to say goodbye for now, folks. I really do appreciate the comments, the enthusiasm, the thumbs up, the likes, the shares. Speaking of thumbs up, my grandpa is very grateful. I mean, I posted that safety video and almost thought for a second, is it too off topic? You know, am I just reacting to obviously something that was emotional, for lack of a better word, in the moment? And I'm very grateful I posted it. It's great to hear other stories from other folks. And look, like it or not, we're human, we err. And I think every once in a while it's good to have a practical, real world reminder of safety. So with that, folks, take care. I will see you soon. Here's some final wrap up footage of those chips in that Excel sheet. All right, let's take a walk through this Excel worksheet. First cut was my base or control cut. Can't really tell you where the recipe came from, but it worked great, got me excited. In hindsight, it was quite a silly, underpowered cut, but 2700, 7, and 0.1. I put that information into GWizard just to extract out the service feet per minute, material removal rates, etc., mostly just for comparison, so we can compare through these cuts as we went more aggressive. The next 3 cuts, they were the sort of standard GWizard recommendations of its, you know, conservative to aggressive or tortoise to a hair. You can see all the information there. I'm not going to belabor it. One of the things that I think is really cool is, look, GWizard is great software. I would highly recommend you buy it. There are others out there. Some are free, but I like GWizard. Nevertheless, sometimes it's nice to sort of see what and where stuff is coming from, so you know how to tweak it and you understand a little bit better. Again, this is probably a big difference between folks like me and you know, real machinists. But anyway, this also reminds me of a joke that the author Stephen Hawking, who wrote A Brief History of Time, I guess was told by his authors that for every formula you include in your book, you will decrease the viewership or readership by half. So formulas aren't always that popular. But nevertheless, I think it's pretty darn cool. If GWizard's telling me it's 196 service feet per minute, well, shouldn't we be able to calculate that? And it's actually quite easy. You just multiply pi, right here, 3.14159, times the diameter of the tool in inches, times RPM, and then because the diameter of that tool was in inches, and we want surface feet per minute, you divide it by 12. And sure enough, it gives us 196, which matches. Pretty cool, right? The formula for RPM is right here, 12 times SFM divided by pi times diameter. Again, looks complicated, not really. Actually matches perfectly, so you can sort of back into how GWizard works. And then feed is RPM times chip per tooth times flutes, and that is actually not perfectly close. And I think that's because in GWizard I was clicking on use high-speed machining speeds and feeds, which does change your feed rate. Nevertheless, I think it's kind of fun, and you guys are welcome to play with this. So cuts 5 and 6, excuse me, I've got a little bit of a head cold. I don't mean to sound nasally. 5 and 6 were from the LakeShore Carbide website, where I went to their feeds and speeds down here and chose variable flute for steel, and I'd call 4130 a medium alloy, and I instantly saw these 300 to 400 surface feet per minute, and I thought, ooh, we're doing way less than that, you know, 170 to 200. So knowing that LakeShore Carbide thinks we should be at closer to 350, I tried to get there. The best I could get to was 330, and I honestly thought this cut was going to be a problem. You know, 5,000 RPMs, 16 inches a minute, You see the stats here, my little comment that I wanted more. And then what I did was I actually wanted to recreate some of this stuff as well, which was great. And that cut went great. So the next thing I did was for cut 6 was thought, okay, well, if this one works, who knows if it will, let's do the same cut, but increase the chip load per tooth. If we look down here, it recommends chip load per tooth by diameter. Well, 1/4 inch tool that we're using, they recommend 8/10 up to 1 thou and a half. This was 8/10, so let's go not to the limit, but close. And that cut was great. So that's when I decided, okay, let's see what it's going to take to break this tool or cause some sort of a problem. And I went back to G-Wizard because I wanted to stay closer to the peak torque in the torque band on the Tormach. So you guys saw it all. We stayed at the same RPM. Feed rates adjusted a little bit based on what G-Wizard was telling me, but we basically just kept stepping up the width of cut, about the same surface feet per minute, so way under. But to increase this, I'd have to increase this, and I think that would give me a torque problem on the spindle. Basically the same chip load, and you guys see the horsepower and material removal steps up considerably. And we ended with this one, which, guys, I am totally blown away. So with that, download this if you'd like to play around with it. Let me know what else you guys want to see. Here's a fun little Excel trick for something like pi or any formula. Rather than referencing cell C3 when you're trying to do the math, like right here you see I am multiplying pi times the diameter times the RPM. You can just click in the cell that you like, and right here, instead of it being C3, you just literally type in pi, hit enter, and now anywhere you want to use the pi, you can just type equal pi times 1, and that lets you use something that makes more sense rather than a cell location. Anyways, let's go take a look at those chips that we kept from, I think, 6 through 11, and then we really will wrap it up. Thanks. So here are the chips that I kept, 6 through 11, and this is actually a really interesting story. 6 and 7 were very similar cuts, but different recipes for getting there. 6 was, round numbers, 5,000 RPMs, 24 inches a minute, whereas 7 was 3,300 RPMs, but 15 inches a minute. And if you look, the chip is actually pretty darn similar. So, okay, that's fine. If we move on to 8, all we're doing is just increasing the width of cut. And that's something I need to think about in terms of how it affects, well, I guess it should really be the chip load per tooth, because if you think about it, moving faster or in a wider path, it means every rotation is going to take more of a chip. So that was 8. Cut number 9 is where I think it really starts to get interesting. Again, compared to 7 and 8, all we were doing was increasing the width of cut more. This is starting to be a pretty good cut, and it's a thicker chip, which is good, and you can actually start to see it's dumping more heat into it that you see in the discoloration of the chip. Now, I'm not an expert, and I'm not here to tell you that a bigger chip is always better, but I will tell you a common mistake new folks make to machining is they try to take it so easy that they create such a thin, small chip that they're effectively rubbing. Carbide especially, it wants to cut and it wants to run hard, and if it's running great like we saw it now, it is going to be very happy making a nice real chip like that. We forget though, it's still pretty cool, folks. Every rotation, one rotation of the cutter, which happens at 3,300 RPMs, it's making 4 of these chips. Isn't that crazy, folks? Just mind-blowing. 10 and 11, basically more of the same, just getting, better. A little bit bigger chip. Again, the only difference is we're increasing the width of cut, but boy, on 11, it is a pretty darn good sized chip, and that heat in that tool was really impressive. I think that's great. Let me try to zoom in on that even more. Yeah, I can't really get in too close. This really makes me want to get that macro lens, but beautiful chip. I'll take some still photography. That's what I'll do here and insert those in the end. And hey, if we compare it to cut 6, I think that's when you can really see the difference. 6 is on the left. It's a thinner chip, and there's basically no color temp in it, so there's no heat in that chip, and there is where we ended. So, folks, I thought that was pretty fun. I'll throw in some stills of the chips and the work piece here, and then we'll call it a wraps. I will see you soon, folks. Take care.